Welcome back to the podcast where we unpack what's happening in real estate, why it matters for you, and whether you're a seasoned agent, a curious investor, or just someone trying to keep an eye on the market. This episode has something for you. Today, we're breaking down the biggest stories shaping real estate that happened in April of 2025, from brokerage consolidation and MLS controversy to commission shakeups, Zillow versus Compass drama, and even global tariffs threatening some affordability. So we got a lot to talk about. I'll try to keep it informative, add a little bit of opinion, but make sure that you leave with clarity on what's changing and what to watch for next. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the broker battle. Compass, Long and Foster, Washington Fine Properties, Sotheby's, some big ass power grabs in DC. Let's start with what might be the biggest business move in residential real estate this year. Compass is reportedly in talks to acquire Home Services of America. That is a Berkshire Hathaway-owned parent company of Berkshire Hathaway, Home Services, and Long and Foster, and whatever other subsidiaries of those companies are under that Berkshire umbrella. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it should. Long and Foster is a giant in the Mid-Atlantic, especially in DC, Maryland, and Virginia markets. It started in Northern Virginia. 2020 closed over $6.6 billion in sales volume in the DC metro area alone. So if Compass closes this deal, which if it's going to happen, chances are it'll probably happen at the end of this year, it would control close to $20 billion in regional volume. That's fucking huge. That's huge. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Compass just acquired a couple months back Washington Fine Properties. That's one of the top luxury brokerages in the area and in the country. So clearly, they're trying to stack the deck to dominate every tier of the markets, whether it's that Lux space, that mid-tier space that most clients fall into, that we work with, or even the lower end. It doesn't matter. Compass is buying up brokerages at a time where things are tight. There's uncertainty. This isn't just about volume. What I think this is listings control. I think Compass is building a walled garden, you could say. They're betting that if they can control the majority of active listings, then they become the default destination for both consumers and top agents. It would make sense, right? But this raises questions. Is this the future of brokerage? Are we headed towards some Amazon-style real estate world where only a few players own most of the action? Maybe. I don't know. Time will tell. For agents, it means there are going to be fewer brand options and more pressure to provide unique value yourself inside of these mega ecosystems. So it is going to come down to your network personally. If there's only a few different players, they're all probably going to be able to do some of the same stuff. It's just who's doing it well and who's doing it better and more efficiently than others. For consumers, it might streamline the experience, right? That's the hope, but it could reduce competition and raise service costs at some point. We just don't know. We just don't know. So it's an interesting development. Compass is not alone. There have been a lot of consolidations and purchases over the last couple years in particular don't involve Compass. For example, another one that hit the news last week, you had Redfin get bought, not last week, maybe a couple weeks ago. Redfin is now under the Rocket umbrella. And what that intention is, I'm sure, is, well, they've already got a platform where people can access and buy properties through there. Why don't we acquire them since we're doing the loans and we're servicing a bunch of these? These companies are trying to create ecosystems. And that's one thing that's become apparent over the last I don't know, couple years is that people love the Amazons. People don't like to admit it, but the convenience factor is too much to pass up. So when it comes to real estate companies, if you have an all-in-one shop where somebody can purchase a property through you, list their property through you, finance a property through you, do renovations through you, do any kind of home service, it makes sense. It's convenient. And we value convenience in this American society more than anything else. Give me something that's easy because my life is not easy all the time. All right. Next, let's get back into Compass here. All right. We got Compass and Zillow fighting. Oh, dear God. They are fighting. There's a battle over private exclusive listings right now. So for those that don't know what a private exclusive is, these are off-market listings that are not put into the MLS. We've been talking about private exclusives as a topic now for probably a year. Prior to that, they're not that popular. Private exclusives or these non-MLS listings serve a purpose, undoubtedly. So when we get clients that are testing a price, we're not ready. We're not quite ready to sell, but maybe we want to aim a little bit higher and, keep things real discreet. We don't want a bunch of people coming through. Okay. You can do a pocket listing or a non-MLS listing or a private exclusive listing with any broker. It doesn't matter who it is. Compass does it better than most, but we're not the only ones that have it. You can be a client going through divorce. Don't want your neighbors to know that you're selling. You could be a celebrity client. Again, don't want to really advertise what you have going on. Professional athlete. There's from a PR standpoint, there's reason to do it. And from a practicality standpoint, there's some reason to do it as well. If you have a client that is unwell, cancer treatments, autoimmune deficiencies, something along those lines, it probably doesn't make a ton of sense if they're living in the property to open it up for the world. And so in cases like that, it makes sense to do a private exclusive. What Zillow is upset about is that these properties are typically marketed only within an agent network or a brokerage network. They're not on public portals like the MLS or like Zillow. Zillow gets a ton of almost all their data from MLSs. There are some for sale by owner elements to it as well, but 99% of the data that comes in through the MLS. So if they don't have access to that data, that means there's less inventory on their platform. If there's less inventory on their platform, they're not going to have as many consumers coming to their platform. If there's less consumers coming, that means the leads that get generated by Zillow, because Zillow's profit comes from agents paying to advertise on their website. That means there's going to be less advertising dollars, a higher cost per lead for each agent that is still signed up with the service. So you can understand why they would say, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, right now we're the place to be. And if you guys continue, all of you brokers, but Compass especially, promoting this off-market stuff, we're not going to really have a business. So this is bull. And I get it. And I get it from both sides. Brokers want control of their data as well. The position that Compass and other brokers take is this is a seller first feature. Gives the seller a little more control, a little more discretion, the ability to test pricing before going public. Again, All valid stuff. All valid stuff. Zillow is saying at some point, maybe now June, they're going to, unless a deal is settled on, they're going to say any listing that is publicly promoted outside of the MLS, even on a brokerage website or on Instagram, must be submitted to the MLS within 24 hours or it's going to be banned from Zillow entirely. How they're going to find that out, I have no idea. I really don't. I'm sure they have the resources to do that. Zillow's argument is this is about transparency and fairness. If you're marketing the home or any home, the public should be able to see it. You know, I get that argument. I do. So we have a standoff here. Compass wants more control and differentiation for its agents and its sellers. Zillow wants equal access for all buyers. Stuck in the middle are guys like me and gals like me. You know what I'm trying to say there. Stuck in the middle, trying to provide value in both ecosystems. What I'm watching is, will sellers push back against losing Zillow exposure? Maybe. Will MLSs update their rules and adapt? Probably. This is a flashpoint in a broader conversation about who owns the listing. Is it the seller? Is it the broker? Is it the MLS? Is it companies like Zillow that get their data feeds from the MLS? It's a battle that's just getting started. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't. I have opinions, but time will tell. So let's take a quick break and we'll jump back in to our next segment here. All right. Let's zoom out to the national level now. NAR, the National Association of Realtors, recently settled a lawsuit, major one last year. We've talked about it on a couple different podcasts before, and I'm sure you guys have read stuff in news articles, but this was a lawsuit that settled for $418 million. Oh, it's pretty big number. Biggest rule change that came from that, MLSs, no matter where they are in the country, can no longer display buyer agent commission offers. So before this policy was instituted, you used to be able to advertise on the MLS, hey, I'm the listing broker willing to pay X amount to a buyer broker if they bring me a ready, willing, and able buyer. Pretty fucking straightforward, right? Am I missing something? I must be missing something. Now, they don't want you to do that. Now you have to call and ask, hey, are you compensating? Now you've got to submit more forms, which is exactly what we needed. We needed more forms. 50 pages wasn't enough. Let's add a few more. I'm not a proponent of this policy. I don't like it, frankly, but there's a lot of things I don't like, and we got to do it anyways. So it seems like it's something that wouldn't affect consumers, right? Wrong. For decades, sellers covered both sides of the commission. That's just how it worked. Buyers need to negotiate and pay their own agent fees directly in some cases. This depends on where you are in the country. Around us, most things are status quo. They're operating as normal. You know, there is no set commission, but there's numbers that you see more often than not, and sellers in most cases are paying that commission. Every now and again, in a multiple offer situation, you'll find somebody willing to pay for their agent as a buyer, but it will come down to the net sheet to the seller. What am I netting? And is it worth it for me to be paying this fee? What this has changed most for the better, I would say, is agents having to articulate their value. The agent count is plummeting right now. We're down 27% on number of licensees across the country since 2019. Remember 2020, everybody wanted to get their license because fuck yeah, man, things are great. Not so much anymore. Because guess what? Inventory's still light. Shit's hard out there. It just is. The average commission to buyer agents is falling. So instead of it being nationally an average of 2.45% of whatever the sales price is going to the brokerage company, now it's about 2.37 on average. Some agents are leaving the industry, pivoting to different models within the industry, stuff that's alternative fee models, let's say. So what does it take to survive? How do you adapt as an agent? You have to double down. It's a bottom line. You have to become a deep local expert. You don't have to focus on all the stuff that's going on in different parts of the country, different parts of your region. You focus on what's happening on your block. You got to have more negotiation savvy. You have to open up more lines of communication with agents. When the sandbox gets smaller, because there's a lot more people that are getting out of it, relationships matter. You have to be a fucking expert communicator. Expert. That's it. As an agent, you got to call in advance, ask if they're compensating. You got to get a sheet from them, or they'll tell you now, just negotiate that in. Okay, let me just fucking pull a number out of my ass and negotiate it in. It just, I don't know. There are pluses and minuses to every change. This one, on the plus side, is requiring agents to be better communicators. It's our job in the beginning anyways, right? Our job is to be excellent communicators for our clients. But in order to do that, you also have to have excellent communication skills with agents, with other vendors. You got to learn how to talk to people and when to, and just be on the fucking ball. It really is. Honestly, the fees should be going up for buyer agency, but they won't, at least for the foreseeable future, but we'll see how things play out. All right, on to DOJ targeting the MLS. Is it a monopoly? This one's under the radar, but maybe the most important story that's kind of working behind the scenes right now. So Department of Justice just named Roger Alford as the number 2 at its antitrust division. So why is that big? Alford was a key expert witness in the NAR commission lawsuit, and he's long argued that the MLS itself is anti-competitive. He claims that MLS rules like clear cooperation suppress innovation. The network of over 800 MLSs operates as a coordinated monopoly, and that brokers can only participate if they agree to restrictive rules. Roger, I'm with you on that one, but if you're wondering what it means practically, it could look like DOJ lawsuits targeting MLS access restrictions, legal challenges to mandatory commission practices. I don't even know what that would mean necessarily, because you could take that in 10 different directions. Even court-ordered restructuring of how MLSs operate. It's all still developing, but if you're in the industry, you got to watch this space pretty closely. Something else to keep an eye on, as if we don't get enough fucking stories through the week. All right, lastly, let's briefly touch on tariffs. Yep. I actually did put a tariff on my kids, 100% tariff on my kids this past week. One asks for candy. I get to eat 2 candies. And right now we're in a sweet tooth phase. So these tariffs are doing really well for me, not necessarily the family, but Trump has mixed opinions here on these tariffs. So without getting political, let's talk about what's going on. President Trump has proposed new tariffs on imported goods. And while that may sound like an international issue, here's where it could affect U.S. housing. pretty hard. A huge percentage of our building materials, fixtures, and appliances are imported. So if those tariffs go through, we're looking at higher prices on new construction. We're looking at delays on materials and timelines. We're looking at pressure on developers who already have some pretty thin margins. A lot of developers right now not making the kind of money that they would typically make. Their purses are tight. And so it's not a good feeling for them right now. It's not something that buyers and sellers are going to feel overnight, but for anyone that is developing, flipping, or building a house, or maybe you're doing a renovation on your place, this kind of stuff does matter. It does matter, and it matters a lot. So, all right, let's land this plane. Big themes from today. Brokerages are consolidating. The big are getting bigger. It's probably not going to slow down in the next couple of years, but we'll see. Agent value is under the microscope. So specialize or get squeezed out. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Listing control is a new battlefield. All right, whether it's MLSs, Compass, Zillow, whatever, the fight is on. The DOJ is not backing down. In fact, it's ramping up, and global economics matter. I know that they're fucking boring stories most of the time, and nobody wants to pay attention to them. God, I'd rather watch sports. Same here. They're not just about trade. These are about cost of living. So cost of living goes up, demand starts to slow a little bit. So something to keep an eye on. All right. If you got value from this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with a fellow agent, an investor, or a real estate nerd. And don't forget to check out more insights and listings at housecats.co or follow us on Instagram at housecatsre. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.